Hi, we're now live. So it's 9:59. I'm just going to give it a minute or two, let people trickling in. But if you're here, please say hello and tell me where you're from. And also if you can hear me. Yesterday I was recording in my parents' garden. There was a lot of noise, garbage truck. Now the neighbor's doing construction. So I had my headphones in. So let me know if you can hear me, and thank you for joining us. So I see a few people already come. Cheryl, Shannon, Jen, Christian. Hi. So I'm super excited that you guys are here. Today is the day 2 of our mini interior styling bootcamp. So I just have a few principles that I want to talk to you about. So if you signed up for the free training next Tuesday, if you haven't, go to cashandthecushions.com. Just to sign up. It's very easy. It's a really popular training I've given before about interior styling, and then also we talk about different ways to build floor plans. So I'm going to go into more design principles. We're going to only talk about 3, like the 3 big ones, and then the ones that support them. So we have quite a few people in already. Oh, so Jen is from Eugene, Oregon. Hi. Hello, La Gonzalez Nieto. So it's kind of annoying. I'm always debating if I want to do Instagram or Facebook Live, because I think Facebook sometimes is more personal and people can type in a lot of questions. But I figure I will try something different on Instagram because more of our audience nowadays is on Instagram. So let me know what you think, but I'm really flexible. Anyway, so we have a few people on the live stream now, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to talk about 3 main design principles that I think is the key in building an interior that sells for you and for your clients. And the most important thing when we're doing staging is to really showcase the home, right? So one of the ways we do that is by focusing on the focal point of every single room. So one of the tricky things about having listing photos online is most of the time they are shown without captions. Or maybe a very simple caption like, here's the living room, or a very beautiful dining room. You know, so it's mainly what the room is and maybe some adjective about it. There's really not a whole lot of information. So as stagers or interior stylists or interior designer, we really have to do a very good job in communicating in terms of what people are seeing in the photos. And we do that through visual, which is the medium that we work in. So one of the biggest thing that we have to make sure it's very clear when people look at the photo is they understand what the room is about. Because most of the homes, especially vacant homes, they're just basically a box. It's 4 blank walls and a floor, and that's it, and the ceiling. So it's really a box. So how can we showcase different room in different scenarios and let people understand what is it about? That's how we do it. That's why we use focal point to illustrate what this room is about. So for example, if you walk into a bedroom, there's going to be a bed, but not a dining table. If you're going to go into a dining room, you're going to see a dining table and maybe a really beautiful centerpiece and then chandelier, etc., etc. So immediately you can read like, okay, this is the dining room, this is not the living room. And this is also why it's very important. A lot of times when we live in our home, for example, my cousin have 3 kids. They're all young, and so it was very natural they turned their formal dining room into a play den because they didn't really need a formal dining space, because most of the time they entertain in the kitchen or outdoor. They have a really nice patio, so they don't really need a formal dining room in their daily lives. But if we were to sell that house, we need to turn that play den back into the dining room, because your buyers may not have kids, or they have grown kids. They don't really need a play den. It's not really fitting with their demographic. So it's really important to really showcase what exactly the focal point is for the room. And like we mentioned on the show yesterday, or on the live stream yesterday, I'm like doing the podcast, so I'm used to saying on the show. But on the live stream yesterday, I talk about there might be multiple focal point you have in the room. So a client of mine, she had a beautiful house and she custom made these windows that frame the San Francisco Bay view. So during summer, it's amazing because you see the ocean view, you feel very relaxed, and then you just feel like this is really the impact when people have when they walk into the room. But during the winter, when it's cold, their fireplace is going to be the main focal point. So focal point might change based on the season or based on the primary purpose of the room. And so as a stager, you really have to do a good job to define A, what is the primary purpose in this room is, and B is how can we entice the buyers and make them feel at home. So that's where our design theory comes in. So to have a focal point, you can really use, so on next week's training, I'm really going to talk about different photography composition because it comes into play in building interiors as well. But one of the main things I really love to use is called the leading line. So it's basically creating this invisible eye line, or actually a physical eye line, to draw people toward the focal point. And today, we're going to talk about 3 main design principles that I think are very important. The first one is harmony. And the second one is creating depth. And the third one is creating that implied movement. Because most of the time when we're looking at photos, like even in the room itself, it needs to have different layers, it needs to have different depth. And then people need to understand how they can move from room A to room B. Like what exactly is the traffic flow? What exactly is the floor plan? Understandably, on your portfolio, it's difficult to do that. But there are different ways that you can do that by leaving them little cues so they can read the photo and they can see exactly, okay, so this is not just one closed-off room. There's actually another doorway to maybe go into the bedroom from this room or go into the kitchen, etc. So let's break those down. So first of all, it's harmony. So harmony exists in our everyday lives. You see it in nature. If you have a backyard, you walk into it, or you go to nature, go see a national park, or, anything in nature, you just see harmony. And why is that? It's really built in through different other little design theories. Like we talk about balance, for example, repetition of shape. If we look at a tree or a flower, so it might not be perfectly symmetrical, but you look at it, you feel soothed, you feel comfortable. Why is that? It's because there's a lot of repetition of shapes. There's also colors. There are different tones. Maybe, sure, the tree is green, but there's different tonation of greens. There's different shades of greens that really make it feeling a very harmonious nature. And this is why, for us, when we walk into an interior, we're influenced by how we were raised. So we have nature all around us. So that's why when we walk in the interior, we also want to feel very comfortable, very calm. This is something that our brain naturally perceives. So if you have a floor plan that, say, we call this Titanic effect, where most of the heavy furniture is on one side of a room, naturally you will feel very unbalanced when you walked in. You might not be able to pinpoint exactly what is wrong, but naturally you will feel, oh my God, I feel like something is off and it makes me uncomfortable and I want to leave. And that's exactly what we don't want in staging the homes for sale. We want the buyers to feel very welcome and very natural when they walk in and they feel welcomed. And that's how they're going to fall in love with the place. That's how they're going to stay longer in the place to really discover the charm of this house. And then we do our job by selling the house. So harmony can be achieved through balance. It's basically everything that in the room, in the space, comes together in the pleasing combination. So the key word is pleasing and also combination, because within the same scene, within the same room, we have a lot of things going on. We have textures, we have different layers. So it all comes together creating more visual interest. So everything that you do in the room, like placing furniture and placing accessories, it all has to be very strategic. Like you really have to think, what is some of the things I can do to really maximize the floor plan in this space? Because ultimately, a lot of times buyers, they're seeing multiple homes on one afternoon. It can be a very hot day, or their children are being crazy. They get really distracted. So one of the things we have to do is help them pull themselves back into the space and really have them experience the space when they're going through the open house. So one of the things that you can do is really showcase the feature of the home. So a lot of times we talk about highlighting architectural details. For example, we used to stage San Francisco Bay Area. There's a lot of Victorian homes, like modernized interiors, but they kept a lot of Victorian details or Edwardian details as well. So we may have walls that have wainscoting or have picture rails in the dining room. This is something that we see very often. So what do? A lot of times buyers may not be educated. They don't understand. There's the first time they're buying a home. They're used to living in rental apartments where literally just 4 sad white walls. So as stagers, we really have to illustrate to show them what are some of the potential things they can do in this home. And that's why we have to highlight the architecture details, because it's a charm and it's definitely a strong selling point, especially in today's market, at least in the Bay Area. The incoming buyers, even if they're millennials, they still really treasure those kind of architecture details. So again, doing the homework on your potential buyers for the house that for the neighborhoods you're working in is incredibly important. So that's why when we put the room together, we're going to build a lot of visual interest to draw them in. You think about how visual merchandisers do it, like Anthropologie, for example. I used to freelance for Anthropologie for 5 months, doing the visual and creatives and stuff like that. And then one of the philosophy that Anthropologie has about building their store is to creating multiple layers. They want it to be like a treasure hunt at a French flea market. So people can really rummage through, they can walk around the space and discover different like details and different maybe hidden merchandise that they're looking for. So they want to build that atmosphere where people are sourcing, they're searching, they're looking. It's like discovering the joy in flea market when you find like just the thing. So it's the same thing. So when they're doing their visual, they really think about what are some of the different personalities that are coming through the store, what are the key buyers demographics. And so they do that very, very well. Before we do the visual merchandising, actually, the store I worked in, for example, is divided into 5 different sections. And each section has a different personality. It's not super different. Say there are 2 sections and they're sisters. One is more artistic, one is more moody, and the other sister is more preppy, but they're both artistic. So the interpretation of that in terms of visual merchandising is slightly different, but they're still artistic. So the visual that we do, we will put in a lot of handmade artwork type of things or a lot of crafty things. But depending on which section we're in, so one might look more preppy and the other one look more moody or more emo, I guess. So there are different ways to appeal to your potential demographics. And so this is why, again, you really need to do your research when you are staging a house. You really need to understand who are coming in to buy in this neighborhood. So those are the different ways you can create visual interest in the room. And with Harmony, you're built through unity and variety. So unity is usually built through color scheme, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. Building a color story, I think, is a really, really important thing in styling and staging and any types of visual work, actually, because when you have a very cohesive color story, it's really naturally going to tie everything together from room to room. So even though living room and dining room has different functions, but because they have the same color scheme, it naturally flows. So when people walk through the space, they don't feel like this one room is really disconnected from the next because they have 2 different distinctive styles. So, for example, a friend of mine, I didn't stage her house because it was like a 2-hour drive from mine. But the thing is, when you walk into her house, you can immediately see actually where one homeowner stops and then the homeowner begins. Because there's 3 different distinctive architectural styles in her home. So originally it was kind of more mountain lodge-y kind of decor. And so there's like all these giant stones on her fireplace, and there's a lot of logs in her like interiors. But then the other homeowner add on an addition to the house, and they really like the Mediterranean look. So they have this kind of like stucco, completely different look and feel. And when my girlfriend moved in, she really liked Spanish architecture. So they put in something totally different. So it's difficult when you're selling a house when there's 3 different distinctive architecture details. So I think her stager was very clever in terms of using the same color schemes throughout the entire home to really tie the entire space together. I mean, these are some of the actual difficulties you're going to encounter when you're staging a house, because not every house is going to be new construction. You might be dealing with older homes, for example, where we do this a lot in San Francisco, where we'll see Because we used to work primarily in Sunset and Richmond District, and then so there's a lot of these tract homes built in the same time. So you'll have these like really pink bathroom, really green bathroom, really blue bathroom, and I'm talking like Pepto-Bismol pink kind of thing all over the place, or entire yellow kitchen with black tile borders and stuff like that. So it's kind of these retro kitchens. And the only ways you can deal with it is to just by dealing it with colors, by neutralizing certain stronger colors, or bringing in accessories or home furnishing that is consistent throughout. And this is how you tie the entire space together, by using the color story to create that sense of unity. And variety is really about textures and different layers, different things that you bring in, different accessories that you have to really entice and tease a lifestyle. So the second part is creating depth. So naturally, when you're creating visual interest in the space, you are creating depth. So like I said yesterday on the live stream, that when we photograph, it's a two-dimensional object. It's a two-dimensional display. But when we're in the room, it's three-dimensional. So one of the things that I always had problem when I was staging was that I thought we did a great job staging the house. It looked beautiful. I love the colors. It just feels so good. Because I really stage by intuition, and I grew up with feng shui. So, because I grew up in Taiwan, I was born and raised in Taiwan. I didn't move to the States until I was 15. So my mom really was into feng shui. So it's kind of like within our culture. So I really kind of grew up feeling like a house needs to have a really good flow. And so one of the things that I check if the staging is good is I would stand in the space and feel. Like I would just feel and see if I feel like this is a good space. And so one of the frustrating things I had, and I didn't understand why, was I don't understand why when we get the photographs back from the photographers, it looked really flat. Like it wasn't as good as I had felt when I was in the space. And so now I work in photography, I understand that it's because we are, like our eyes see in 3 dimensions, but for like cameras, it's a machine, it sees in 2 dimensions. And this is why, for example, when you are walking in from a really dark room into a light room and vice versa, your eyes can adjust automatically. Like it might take a few seconds, but your eyes will adjust and you can see the depth in the room. Like the potted plant is really far away from you and the desk is like right in front of you. But the machine can't do that. So if you have a camera, for example, if you walk from a really dark scenario into a very light room, a lot of times the camera can't adjust. Like you have to change the manual setting. You have to change your exposure. So this is also why it's really important to understand from a photographer point of view, because this is going to influence your portfolio really directly. Like your portfolio is really the only selling tool you have. Most of the time, there's going to be more people seeing your portfolio online versus people who actually see your stage homes in person. So it's really, really important for you that your portfolio is on point and also illustrate what exactly you can do. And this is why I think it's really important to understand how to compose photographs so you can tweak your portfolio and make it stronger and to get yourself higher for your next job with your ideal client. And so when we're bringing texture and colors together, naturally we're going to create variety in this space. And all together, we're going to create harmony. And by having different depth, it's going to make the space feel richer and for people to want to stay in longer. And this is why you have texture and you use colors to create different contrasts. You can do that with textures as well. And when we talk about like photography composition, there's going to be foreground and then background, obviously, right? So like think about your high school prom photo. What's going on in the back? A background, right? And there can be different types of background. It can be an all gray one for like, those kind of traditional professional headshots, or it can be like, I don't know, you go to Disney World, it's like, a castle scene in the back, right? So there's different background and foreground as well. So we don't really feel it when we're standing in a space, but when we look at a photo, we can really see the different layers. And that's why by creating depth, people can really see and understand the different textures and then the interiors. And that's really how we make the space look more interesting and to really draw people in. And the last thing I want to talk about is implied movement, because when we're in the space, in the stage home, people can see immediately because our eye sees everything, right? Like we have peripheral vision, we have direct vision, so we see everything. Like for example, I'm doing live stream from my parents' family room, and then there's a patio door next to me that I can go onto the patio, and there's a window in front of me where I can see the top of our neighbor's garden, and then on the left there's like a sofa set. And so it's really clear. I can see exactly where's the entryway, where I can exit. But on photographs, you can't do that. And that's why we have to rely on composition to really convey that implied movement in the photographs. And so, like I talk about leading lines, for example, it's one of the things that photographers use all the time to really help people bring the focus of their eye to a certain point of the photo. And then repetition helps as well. So on the training next week, I'm actually going to show you photo examples of what I'm talking about so you can understand it more. So yeah, so that's today's little quick live stream. And tomorrow is only going to talk about color story, because I think a lot of people are scared of colors. They might not know how exactly to use colors, especially when they want to do like a really brighter or maybe like appealing to a younger demographic. So I'm going to show you a few tricks to bring your color story together. And color story is really important because like our interior styling course, Cash and Cushions, I actually talk about branding, using color story, build your brand as well, because it all ties together. When you're staging, it's not only just your work, it's also your brand, like how you position your company. And certain colors draw certain people in, so you really have to figure out who is your demographic, who are your potential buyers, and who are going to hire you for jobs. And you can use your color story to appeal to them. And so that's something I think is very important to talk about. All right. So any questions? And I also have a little assignment for you. Don't worry, it's not super intense. It is a boot camp after all, like a mini boot camp. So I have an assignment for you. I want you to look at your past staging photos, or if you don't have any yet, you can take some photo from a magazine. And then tell me, I'm going to put a recap post in our Facebook page at facebook.com/stageformore. So you can tell me, post your photo there, and tell me what design theory that you see in this photo. And if you think that maybe there's some of the things that you can do better, what exactly is the focal point you're trying to convey? What is the story you're trying to tell through your visual? So I would like to challenge you to post your photo, and then so we can all give you feedback. Yeah. So let me scroll through the streams just to make sure we have some questions that I can answer. Okay. Let's see. So any questions today? No? Nothing? Let me see. All right. So if we don't have any questions, I'm just going to end the live stream today. And then so I'm going to post a recap on our Instagram post and then also on Facebook page as well. So if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to just leave me a message there and I'll answer them as soon as I can. And Jen just asked repeat the assignment. So I have a really quick assignment for you. I just want you to pull a photo that is from your past staging, or a few if you like. If you don't have one from your past staging, pull it from a magazine or like Pinterest, whatever, and tell me what design theories you think they have used and then used very well. And then what are some of the things you like and don't like about the photo? I would love to hear your thoughts. And I would also love to see any questions you may have or challenges that you may have. So feel free to leave me a message on our Facebook page or on Instagram post, whichever you want. Again, notification for both. Yeah, so that's it for today. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on the live stream. And I'll see you tomorrow at 10 Pacific Standard Time for our color story. Bye!